Hello my friends, short video following the previous video, which is discerning the voice of God. This is more to do with, hey God, why aren't you listening to me? And I would say, why am I not listening to God? Now I know the word God in the New Age movement meets with a shudder. I don't apologize for that. We can call God by many names: Yahweh, Source, the One Who Is, the I Am Presence. Language leaves us cold, but we know in our heart that the One Who Is speaks to us every day. And often when God speaks, God's love falls on stony ground. And I have heard so many of my clients and students over the years say, I've asked God, but He's not listening. Otherwise, I would have had my request. And you know, dear friends, that if you want to listen to the voice of God, you have to prepare yourself. It's like learning to drive a car for the first time. In order to be acceptable by the state or the country you live in as a roadworthy driver, you have to pass a test, a written test in the UK, as well as an oral and practical examination. And that's to ensure that you are safe and that passengers are safe and the public are safe. But listening to the voice of God, you do not need to go on a course. You do not have to change your personality. You do not have to become born again, as many advocate. What you do is you prepare your space and you enter a time of quietness and stillness. You disconnect your mobile phone and you wait patiently for God to speak to your heart. Whether you're a Muslim, a Jew, a Hindu, a Buddhist, a Sikh, or a Christian, your God will find you. But will you find your God? And you can only find God in silence. And silence is not easy for many who live in the city or in the fast lane. And even I, who live the contemplative life, yes, keeping the monastery ready for the next visitor or patient or client, there are daily jobs, and sometimes those tasks can be insurmountable, particularly when we're preparing for a gathering of our members of our community, to make sure the place is clean, to make sure that the food is prepared, that they have a plate to put it on, that they have utensils to eat it from, and that they have a napkin or a serviette in case of any spillage on their mouth or on their clothes, that they are warm, that they are fed, and that they're welcome. So it is with God. God's love desires us, but not many people are able to receive that acknowledgement because their mind is preoccupied on self. They have an inability to let go, to surrender their heart to God. They become impatient, fractious, even disgruntled with God. And God is just testing the water to see, are they really willing to make a commitment to listen? And if they do listen, what will they do with that information? Will they suddenly go running out onto the highways and start setting themselves up as a prophet, a messenger of God, which many are doing, because they sense that God has spoken to them, that they run off on a tangent? And they upset a lot of people because they speak with no authority from God. The only authority they have is their ego. So first, it's important to be in the right place. Mirror, signal, maneuver. They were the 3 words I remember from that time when I was learning to drive 20 years ago. To mirror means to let God know you're ready. To signal to God and say, yes, I am ready. I am relaxed. I am still. And maneuver to be in the right place so that you can surrender your heart to love. And I guess the reason why I used to get so impatient with God was because I was immature. I wanted God to answer all my prayers on my terms. I wasn't willing or spiritually mature enough to realize that God has a plan. And the plan is for my betterment and own good. But because I was so wrapped up in myself, in my ego, in my suffering, in my victimhood, that I made a rod for my own back. And instead of admitting my defeat and owning it, and then blessing it and releasing it to God, I would respond like a difficult child having a tantrum. But don't we learn? And I see my life really like an onion. Each layer God removes with love, and He ensures that I am ready to hear. He ensures that I am receptive to that inner voice in my soul. So when those who say, I've asked God, but He doesn't hear me, there's many times I've thought that God has bought a one-way ticket to Kathmandu. But that's my immaturity. If you truly wish for God to speak to your heart, then you know that you have to be in the right place at the right time. Not in the middle of Piccadilly Station, not in the middle of JFK Airport, where everything is tussle and bustle. You have to be in a place of stillness, and you have to be patient, because God doesn't jump to our whims and fancies. And the times when God speaks to me is often when I'm off guard. Like doing this video. And I'm sharing with you what I'm sensing in my heart. This is not a lecture. It's not a seminar. It's not a webinar. It's a reflection on why many give up on God. Why many accuse God of not listening to them and not speaking to them, when the opposite is true. God is speaking, God is listening, but are we? Let us pray. Father, Mother God, you called each one of us in love. You breathed the breath of love into our mother's womb, and you encapsulated us in your love. I ask your blessing on the person who watches this video, that you prepare them to be willing to trust you and to walk in faith with you, free of any agenda, but just to come as they are in their woundedness, in their confusion, in their brokenness or isolation, and that they are willing to sit in silence. Love them. Namaste. Shalom. Inshallah Patsit Bonam. Om Shanti. Solo de Caritas. Peace.